The scream that shattered my sleep at 3 in the morning wasn't fear. It was pure rage. "You're suffocating me, Felix. I can't breathe with you constantly asking where I am, what I'm doing, who I'm with." I sat up in our shared bed, blinking away the fog of interrupted dreams. The digital clock's green numbers burned into my retinas. 3:17 a.m. Elin stood beside the bed, her silhouette trembling with fury against the city lights streaming through our apartment windows. "I asked you once," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos erupting around me. "I asked where you were tonight because dinner got cold waiting for you." "That's exactly what I'm talking about." She threw her purse across the room, its contents scattering across our hardwood floor. "The guilt trips, the passive-aggressive comments, the way you make me feel like a prisoner in my own relationship." I watched her pace back and forth, her designer heels clicking against the floor like a countdown timer. 3 years together, and I'd never seen this version of Elin Rydell. The polished marketing executive who charmed clients and commanded boardrooms had vanished, replaced by someone I barely recognized. "You want space," I said, more statement than question. "Yes, God. Yes, I want space. I want to go out without explaining myself. I want to work late without you texting me every hour. I want to feel like I'm 28 years old, not some housewife from the 1950s. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd built a tech startup from nothing, working 18-hour days to create something meaningful. The last thing I wanted was a housewife. I wanted a partner, an equal, someone who understood ambition because she had her own. Apparently, I'd been wrong about what Elin wanted. "Fine," I said, swinging my legs out of bed. "You've got it." She stopped pacing. "What? Space. You want it? You've got it." I walked to our closet and pulled out a duffel bag. "How much space are we talking about? A few days? A week?" "Felix, what are you doing?" I started folding clothes with mechanical precision. Jeans, t-shirts, my good suit for client meetings. "I'm giving you exactly what you asked for. Space." "You don't have to leave tonight." "I didn't mean..." "You meant every word." I zipped the bag and grabbed my laptop case from the desk. "And you know what? You're right. We both need space to figure out what we actually want." Elin's anger had shifted to something that looked almost like panic. "Where will you go?" "I'll figure it out." I paused at the bedroom door and looked back at her. She stood there in her black cocktail dress, makeup smudged, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "For what it's worth, Elin, I never wanted to be your prison guard. I just wanted to be your partner." I left her standing there and walked out into the Minneapolis night. By 4 a.m., I was sitting in my Honda Civic in a truck stop parking lot, watching the city shrink in my rearview mirror. I'd always been good at reading people. It's what made me successful in tech, understanding what users really wanted versus what they said they wanted. But I'd missed something crucial about Elin. Or maybe I'd seen it and chose to ignore it. I pulled out my phone and opened the location sharing app we'd both installed months ago. "For safety," she'd said. "So we always know the other person made it home okay." Elin's little blue dot wasn't at our apartment. She was at 1247 Riverside Drive, Unit 3B. I didn't recognize the address, but a quick search told me everything I needed to know. Sebastian Lund, investment banker at Morrison & Associates. 30 years old, 6-figure salary, lived alone in a luxury townhouse overlooking the river. I stared at that blue dot for a long time, feeling something cold and calculating settle in my chest. Not heartbreak. That would come later. This was something else entirely. Recognition. Elin hadn't exploded at me because she needed space. She'd exploded because she'd already found someone to fill it. I started the engine and headed east, toward a new city and a new life, but as the miles rolled by, I found myself smiling. For the first time in months, I felt completely clear about what came next. Elin wanted space. Sebastian Lund wanted my girlfriend. They were both about to get exactly what they deserved. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. 2 weeks later, I was unpacking boxes in a converted loft in downtown Milwaukee, 3 hours and a lifetime away from Minneapolis. The space was perfect. High ceilings, exposed brick, and most importantly, completely mine. No shared decisions, no compromises, no walking on eggshells around someone else's mood. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya Chen, my lead developer and the closest thing I had to a best friend. New office space secured. When do you want to see it? Maya had followed me to Milwaukee without hesitation. She'd been with my company, Apex Solutions, since the beginning, and she understood better than anyone why I needed a fresh start. She also understood technology in ways that bordered on supernatural. "Give me an hour," I texted back. The new Apex Solutions headquarters occupied the top floor of a renovated warehouse in Milwaukee's 3rd Ward. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Lake Michigan, and the open floor plan gave us room to grow. Maya had already set up her workstation, complete with 3 monitors and enough processing power to run a small country. "This place has good bones," she said, not looking up from her code. "Also, excellent internet infrastructure and surprisingly robust security features." Surprisingly robust? Maya finally looked at me, her dark eyes sparkling with mischief. "Let's just say the previous tenant was very concerned about digital privacy. Their loss, our gain." I walked to the windows and looked out at the lake. The water stretched to the horizon, endless and full of possibilities. "Maya, hypothetically speaking, how hard would it be to set up monitoring on someone's digital footprint? Hypothetically? Or are we talking about your charming ex-girlfriend?" I turned around. Maya was leaning back in her chair, arms crossed, wearing the expression she got when she was about to lecture me about something. "It's not what you think," I said. "I think you're hurt and angry, and you want to know what Elin is up to. I also think you're smart enough to know that revenge fantasies and actual revenge are 2 very different things. What if it's not about revenge? What if it's about protection?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "Protection from what?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots I'd been collecting. Text messages from mutual friends, social media posts, fragments of conversations that painted a disturbing picture. "She's telling people I was controlling and possessive, that she had to escape from me, that she's afraid I might try to contact her or show up at her work." Maya scrolled through the images, her expression growing more serious. "This is character assassination. It gets worse. She's been reaching out to my clients, suggesting that I might be unstable and that they should consider alternative service providers. That's not just personal, that's professional sabotage." I nodded. "So when I ask about monitoring her digital footprint, it's not because I want to spy on her love life. It's because I need to know what she's planning next." Maya was quiet for a long moment, staring at the screenshots. Finally, she looked up at me. "Hypothetically, setting up comprehensive digital monitoring would require access to multiple platforms, cross-referencing data points, and maintaining constant surveillance without detection. Hypothetically. It would also require someone with advanced skills in cybersecurity, social engineering, and data analysis. Someone like you. Someone exactly like me." She turned back to her computer. "Give me 48 hours. I spent those 48 hours settling into my new life. Milwaukee felt different from Minneapolis, grittier, more honest, less concerned with appearances. I found a bar called the Copper Kettle 6 blocks from my loft, the kind of place where the bartender remembered your drink and the regulars minded their own business. On Thursday evening, Maya called me. "We need to talk. Meet me at the office." I found her surrounded by printouts, sticky notes, and empty coffee cups. Her monitors displayed what looked like a digital spider web, with Elin's name at the center and dozens of connections radiating outward. "Your ex-girlfriend is busy," Maya said without preamble. "She's been in contact with 12 of your former clients, 6 mutual friends, and 3 local business journalists. Business journalists? She's trying to plant a story about your erratic behavior and the real reason you left Minneapolis. Maya clicked through several screens. But here's where it gets interesting. She's not working alone. The screen changed to show a group chat with 3 participants: Elin, Sebastian Lund, and someone named Kira Walsh. Kira is Elin's best friend and social media manager for several high-profile clients. She's also the one coordinating the media campaign against you. I leaned closer to read the chat logs Maya had somehow accessed. Elin: Felix was always jealous of my success. I think he left because he couldn't handle dating someone more accomplished than him. Kira: perfect angle, wounded male ego, classic story. I can get this placed in 3 different publications. Sebastian: just make sure there's nothing that traces back to us. The last thing I need is drama affecting my career. I felt that cold calculation settling in my chest again. They're trying to destroy my reputation. It gets worse. Maya pulled up another screen showing financial records. Sebastian Lund isn't just Elin's new boyfriend. He's also been feeding her inside information about potential clients. 3 companies that were considering switching to Apex Solutions suddenly signed with our competitors instead. How is that legal? It's not. It's also not provable without evidence that would be inadmissible in court. Maya looked at me seriously. But Felix, this isn't just about your relationship anymore. They're actively trying to destroy your business. I stared at the evidence spread across Maya's desk. Elin hadn't just moved on. She'd declared war. A quiet, sophisticated war fought with whisper campaigns and professional sabotage, but war nonetheless. What would you do? I asked Maya. She was quiet for a long moment. I'd remind them that technology is a double-edged sword, and I'd make sure they understood exactly how sharp both edges can be. I nodded slowly. Then let's get to work. Oscar Brennan looked exactly like what Central Casting would order for a washed-up private investigator. Rumpled suit, 3 days of stubble, and eyes that had seen too much of humanity's worst impulses. I found him at the Copper Kettle on a Tuesday afternoon, nursing a whiskey and reading a paperback thriller. "You're Felix Rourke," he said before I could introduce myself. "Maya Chen said you might be stopping by. She said you might be able to help me with a problem." Oscar gestured to the empty bar stool next to him. "Depends on the problem. I don't do anything that involves breaking legs or planting evidence. Nothing like that. I need information." "Information I can do." "What kind of information?" I slid a folder across the bar containing everything Maya had compiled on Elin, Sebastian, and Kira. Oscar flipped through it methodically, occasionally making notes on a small pad. "Your ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend has expensive tastes," he said finally. "Luxury car, downtown townhouse, country club membership. Investment banking pays well, but not this well." "You think he's dirty?" "I think he's leveraged to the eyeballs, and probably cutting corners to maintain his lifestyle." Oscar closed the folder. "Give me a week." A week later, Oscar delivered a manila envelope that changed everything. Sebastian Lund wasn't just living beyond his means, he was financing his lifestyle through a combination of insider trading, client fund manipulation, and what amounted to legalized theft. The evidence was circumstantial but damning. Trades made hours before major announcements, client accounts showing mysterious fees, and a pattern of behavior that would make any regulatory agency very interested. "The beautiful part," Oscar explained over coffee, "is that he's been so careful to stay technically legal that he's created a paper trail a mile long. All someone would have to do is point the right people in the right direction." "What about Elin?" "She's been busy too." Oscar pulled out another set of documents. Her new PR agency, Rydell Communications, is funded entirely by her parents, but she's been representing it as a successful independent venture. That's fraud if she's using false financial statements to secure clients or investors. I studied the documents. This is enough to ruin both of them. It's enough to raise serious questions about their business practices. What happens after that depends on how well they can explain themselves. That evening, I sat in my loft with Maya, planning our first move. We start with Sebastian, I said. He's the weak link. Take away his financial stability and everything else falls apart. Maya pulled up Sebastian's credit profile on her screen. He's got 3 credit cards maxed out, a car loan, and a mortgage that's eating 60% of his official income. One significant financial disruption would create a cascade effect. What kind of disruption? Remember how you co-signed for that business credit card when you and Elin were together? The one she was supposed to remove your name from after you broke up? I'd forgotten about the card entirely. Elin had needed it for business expenses, and I'd agreed to co-sign as a favor. She never removed me? Nope. And she's been using it regularly. Expensive dinners, shopping trips, weekend getaways with Sebastian. Maya showed me the recent charges. As a co-signer, you have the legal right to cancel the card at any time. What happens to her outstanding balance? It becomes immediately due, all of it. I looked at the number on the screen. Elin had racked up nearly $15,000 in charges over the past month. Do it! Maya's fingers flew across her keyboard. Done. She'll get notification within the hour. What about Sebastian? I've been monitoring his trading patterns. He's got a major position in Meridian Industries that he took out yesterday, right before their earnings announcement. Inside information? Almost certainly. His ex-college roommate works in Meridian's accounting department. Maya pulled up another screen. But here's the thing. I happen to know that Meridian's earnings report contains a significant error. They're going to have to issue a correction tomorrow morning. How do you know that? Maya smiled mysteriously. I have friends in interesting places. The point is, Sebastian's about to lose a lot of money on what he thought was a sure thing. That's not our doing, though. That's just bad luck. True. But it would be unfortunate if his supervisors at Morrison & Associates happened to receive an anonymous tip about his trading patterns, wouldn't it? I stared at her. You're devious. I'm thorough. There's a difference. The next morning, I watched the chaos unfold from my office. Elin called me 6 times before I finally answered. Felix, what did you do? Her voice was tight with panic. I removed myself from a financial obligation that you were supposed to handle months ago. It's called taking care of business. I can't pay $15,000 right now. This is going to destroy my credit. Then you probably shouldn't have charged $15,000 to a card you couldn't afford to pay off. This is vindictive and petty. This is me protecting my financial interests. You've spent the last month trying to destroy my professional reputation. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I don't know what you're talking about, she said finally. Of course you don't. Give my regards to Sebastian. I hear he's having a challenging day at work. I hung up and turned to Maya, who was monitoring social media and news feeds. Sebastian's been called into a meeting with Morrison & Associates' compliance department, she reported, and Kira just posted a very interesting status update. She showed me Kira's Instagram story, a photo of her and Elin at an expensive restaurant, with the caption, Emergency Girl Talk. When life gives you lemons, make very strong cocktails. They're panicking, I said. They're regrouping. This was just the opening move, Felix. They're going to hit back, and they're going to hit back hard. I looked out at Lake Michigan, its surface choppy with whitecaps from the afternoon wind. Then we'd better be ready for them. The retaliation came faster than I expected. I was meeting with a potential client, Jennifer Martinez from Hartwell Industries, when my phone started buzzing with notifications. I ignored it until Jennifer herself looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry, Felix, but I just received some concerning information about your company. My stomach dropped. What kind of information? She showed me her phone. Someone had sent her a detailed email outlining my history of unstable behavior, complete with screenshots of social media posts that had been carefully edited to make me look erratic and unprofessional. I'm sure there's an explanation, Jennifer said diplomatically. But given the sensitive nature of our project, I think we need to postpone this discussion. After she left, I called Maya immediately. They've gone nuclear, she said without preamble. Kira's activated her entire network. The story is spreading across industry blogs, social media, and professional networks. They're painting you as a vindictive ex-boyfriend who can't be trusted with sensitive business information. I drove back to the office in a cold rage. This wasn't just personal anymore. They were trying to destroy everything I'd built. Maya had transformed our conference room into a war room, with multiple screens showing the spread of the disinformation campaign in real time. It's sophisticated, she admitted. Kira knows exactly how to make something go viral in professional circles. She's using influencers, industry publications, and targeted social media campaigns. Can we stop it? We can't stop it, but we can control the narrative. Maya pulled up another screen. Remember how I said technology is a double-edged sword? Time to show them the other edge. Over the next 6 hours, Maya orchestrated a counterattack that was both elegant and devastating. She'd been monitoring Kira's digital activities for weeks, and she'd discovered something interesting. Kira had been using her access to client social media accounts for personal purposes, including promoting Elin's business and spreading negative information about competitors. This is a massive breach of professional ethics, Maya explained as she compiled the evidence. Her clients trusted her with their digital presence, and she's been using it to settle personal scores. How do we prove it? We don't have to prove it. We just have to raise the question. Maya showed me a carefully crafted exposé that documented Kira's suspicious social media activity. I'm going to send this to 3 of her biggest clients and 2 industry watchdog blogs. What about Sebastian? Sebastian's about to have bigger problems. Remember that compliance investigation at Morrison & Associates? It turns out they take insider trading very seriously. Maya pulled up internal emails she'd somehow obtained from Morrison & Associates' servers. How did you— Never mind, I don't want to know. Probably better that way. The important thing is that Sebastian's supervisors are now aware of his trading patterns, his financial situation, and his relationship with someone who's been actively trying to manipulate business relationships. They're going to fire him. They're going to investigate him. What happens after that depends on what they find. I felt a moment of doubt. Maya, are we going too far? She looked at me seriously. Felix, they tried to destroy your reputation and your business because you had the audacity to leave a relationship that wasn't working. They made this personal, and they made it professional. All we're doing is showing people who they really are. That evening, I was at the Copper Kettle when Oscar slid onto the bar stool next to me. Heard you've been busy, he said. Word travels fast. In this business, it travels at the speed of light. Oscar ordered his usual whiskey. Your girlfriend's friend Kira is having a very bad day. 3 clients have suspended their contracts pending a review of her professional conduct. And Sebastian? Sebastian's been placed on administrative leave while Morrison & Associates conducts their investigation. Apparently, someone sent them a very detailed analysis of his trading activities. I sipped my beer. Sounds like they're both paying the price for their choices. Funny thing about consequences, Oscar said. They have a way of finding people eventually. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Riverside Park. Come alone. E. I showed the message to Oscar. She wants to negotiate, he said. What do I have to negotiate? She started this war. Maybe. Or maybe she's realized she's losing and wants to call a truce before things get worse. I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let the consequences of Elin's choices play out naturally. But another part of me was curious. What could she possibly have to say that would matter now? I'll go, I decided. But I'm not going alone. Oscar nodded. I'll be there. At a distance, but I'll be there. The next afternoon, I walked through Riverside Park, feeling like I was heading into enemy territory. Elin was waiting on a bench overlooking the river, looking smaller and more fragile than I remembered. Thank you for coming, she said, as I sat down beside her. You have 5 minutes. Felix, this has gone too far. People are getting hurt. You mean you're getting hurt? Kira lost 2 of her biggest clients today. Sebastian might lose his job. This isn't what I wanted. I turned to look at her directly. What did you want, Elin? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you wanted to destroy my reputation and my business while you built a new life with Sebastian. I wanted you to leave me alone. I did leave you alone. I left the city, I left our friends, I left our entire life together. But that wasn't enough, was it? You had to make sure everyone knew that leaving was my fault, that I was the problem. Elin was quiet for a long moment. I was scared. Of what? Of people thinking I was the kind of person who would cheat on someone I'd been with for 3 years. Of people judging me for moving on so quickly. So you decided to make me the villain. I didn't plan it. It just happened. People asked questions, and I gave them answers that made me look better. And then Kira turned those answers into a professional hit campaign. Elin nodded miserably. She said she was protecting me. She said you might try to retaliate, and we needed to get ahead of the story. Well, congratulations. You got ahead of the story, and now you're dealing with the consequences. What do you want, Felix? What will it take for you to call this off? I stood up from the bench. I want you to understand that actions have consequences, Elin. You tried to destroy my reputation and my business. Now you're facing the natural results of that choice. This isn't natural. You're orchestrating this. I'm simply making sure that people have accurate information about who they're dealing with. If that's inconvenient for you, maybe you should have thought about that before you declared war on me. I walked away, leaving her sitting alone by the river. As I reached the parking lot, Oscar fell into step beside me. How do you feel? He asked. Like I'm just getting started. 3 days later, the first domino fell. Maya called me at 7 a.m, her voice tight with excitement. Sebastian's been terminated from Morrison & Associates, effective immediately. I sat up in bed, instantly awake. What happened? Their investigation turned up evidence of multiple violations of company policy, including unauthorized trades, misuse of client information, and failure to disclose conflicts of interest. They're also referring the matter to the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. Apparently, Sebastian's insider trading was more extensive than we realized. Morrison & Associates is cooperating fully with federal investigators to avoid any suggestion that they condoned his behavior. I walked to my kitchen and started making coffee, trying to process the magnitude of what was happening. What about his mortgage, his car loan, all those expenses? That's where things get interesting. Without his Morrison & Associates salary, Sebastian can't meet his financial obligations. His mortgage company has already been notified of his employment status change. How do you know that? Because I may have anonymously provided them with public records showing his termination, as a concerned citizen, of course. I had to smile at Maya's thoroughness. Of course. There's more. Kira Walsh has been dropped by 2 more clients, and there are rumors that she's facing a professional ethics investigation by the Digital Marketing Association. Based on what? Based on evidence that she used client resources for personal vendettas. Apparently someone provided very detailed documentation of her activities. Someone very thorough and very careful about covering their tracks. That afternoon, I was reviewing quarterly reports when my assistant knocked on my office door. There's a Sebastian Lund here to see you. He says it's urgent. I looked up, surprised. Send him in. Sebastian looked like he'd aged 5 years in the past week. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled, and his eyes had the desperate look of a man watching his world collapse. We need to talk, he said, closing the door behind him. I don't think we have anything to discuss. You're destroying my life. I leaned back in my chair. I'm not doing anything to your life, Sebastian. Your choices are destroying your life. The insider trading investigation, the mortgage company, the professional reputation damage. That's all you. The insider trading investigation is the result of your decision to break federal securities law. The mortgage company is responding to your employment status change. The professional reputation damage is the natural consequence of your professional misconduct. Sebastian sat down across from my desk without being invited. What do you want? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I'll leave Elin. I'll end the relationship. Disappear from her life completely. Just call off whatever you're doing. I studied his face. The desperation was real, but so was the calculation behind it. Sebastian wasn't offering to leave Elin out of nobility. He was trying to save himself. That's between you and Elin, I said finally. It has nothing to do with me. Everything that's happening to me has to do with you. Everything that's happening to you has to do with your choices. You chose to engage in questionable trading practices. You chose to help Elin sabotage my business. You chose to live beyond your means and finance your lifestyle through ethically dubious methods. I never meant for things to go this far. Neither did I. But here we are. Sebastian leaned forward desperately. I can fix this. I can make Elin stop the campaign against you. I can get Kira to back off. I can make this all go away. The campaign against me has already stopped, Sebastian. Kira is dealing with her own professional crisis, and Elin is facing the consequences of her choices. The only person who can fix your situation is you. How? Start by taking responsibility for your actions instead of blaming other people for the consequences. Sebastian stared at me for a long moment, then stood up abruptly. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You just haven't accepted it yet. After he left, I called Oscar. Sebastian just paid me a visit, I told him. Desperate man making desperate threats? Something like that. What's the word on the street? The word is that Sebastian Lund is finished in Minneapolis financial circles. Morrison and Associates made sure of that when they released a statement about their cooperation with federal investigators. And Kira? Kira's trying to salvage her career by throwing Elin under the bus. Apparently, she's been telling people that the campaign against you was entirely Elin's idea, and she was just following client instructions. Loyalty among thieves. There's no honor among people who make their living manipulating others. Which brings me to Elin. What about her? She's been making calls, trying to find out who's behind the information leaks. She knows this isn't coincidence. Does she know it's me? She suspects, but she can't prove anything. The beautiful thing about the truth is that it doesn't require manipulation or conspiracy. It just requires someone willing to shine a light in the right places. That evening, I was having dinner at a small Italian restaurant near my loft when I noticed a familiar figure at the bar. Kira Walsh was nursing a glass of wine and staring at her phone with the intensity of someone watching their life fall apart in real time. I debated whether to approach her, then decided I had nothing to lose. Kira, I said, taking the empty bar stool next to her. She looked up, startled. Felix, I didn't expect to see you here. Milwaukee's a small town in some ways. She laughed bitterly. Not small enough to hide from the consequences of your mistakes. Is that what you're calling it? Mistakes? What would you call it? I signaled the bartender for a beer. I'd call it a coordinated campaign to destroy someone's reputation and livelihood. But that's just me. Kira was quiet for a moment, swirling the wine in her glass. Elin was hurt and angry. She wanted people to understand her side of the story. Her side of the story required lying about mine. She didn't see it that way. How did she see it? She saw it as protecting herself from someone who might try to hurt her professionally. So she decided to hurt me professionally first. Kira nodded slowly. It seemed like the smart play at the time. And now? Now I'm facing a professional ethics investigation, I've lost half my clients, and my reputation in the industry is destroyed. She looked at me directly. You're very good at this. At what? at making people face the consequences of their choices without leaving fingerprints. I sipped my beer. I'm good at recognizing patterns and understanding how systems work. When people make choices that violate professional ethics or legal standards, those systems tend to respond predictably. Is that what you tell yourself? That's what I know to be true. You used client resources to wage a personal campaign against me. That's a violation of professional ethics. Sebastian engaged in insider trading and financial misconduct. That's a violation of federal law. Elin committed fraud in representing her business and engaged in professional sabotage. That's a violation of business ethics and potentially civil law. And you just happened to make sure the right people found out about these violations. I made sure the truth was available to people who had a legitimate interest in it. Kira finished her wine and stood up. For what it's worth, Felix, I'm sorry. I let Elin convince me that you were the enemy, and I acted accordingly. That was my choice, and I accept the consequences. That's the first honest thing anyone has said to me in this entire situation. It's also the last time we'll speak. I'm leaving Milwaukee tomorrow. Fresh start, new city, lessons learned. She left a 20 on the bar and walked away. I sat there for a while, thinking about consequences and choices and the weight of both. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Elin's business license has been suspended pending investigation of fraudulent financial statements. Thought you should know. I stared at the message for a long time, then finished my beer and walked home through the quiet streets of Milwaukee, feeling like I was finally approaching the end of something that had started with a scream in the middle of the night. The call came on a Thursday morning, 3 weeks after Kira left town. Elin, I don't think meeting is a good idea, I said. Please. I need to understand how everything happened. There was no anger in her voice this time, only curiosity. I agreed to meet at a coffee shop on Water Street. She arrived on time, thinner, tired, but composed. We sat with untouched coffee between us. Sebastian's gone, she said. Left town without a word. I'm sorry you're hurt, I said. But he made his choices. Everyone made choices, except you. Somehow you came out untouched. No. I chose to protect my life when you tried to destroy it. By destroying mine. By exposing the truth about your actions. She studied me. You're colder. The Felix I knew couldn't have pulled this off. The Felix you knew hadn't been betrayed. People adapt. She leaned in. How did you do it? The financial records, the ethics complaints, the investigation? How did you orchestrate all of it? I didn't orchestrate anything, I said. I just made sure the right people had accurate information. That's not an answer. That's the only answer you'll get. I could go to the police. And say what? That you're being held accountable for your misconduct? That your boyfriend was investigated for crimes he actually committed? That your sabotage campaign backfired? She went quiet. You thought of everything. I thought of the obvious things. When you're honest and documented, consequences handle themselves. Legal, ethical, devastating. Truth often is. She finished her coffee. What happens now? You rebuild, I rebuild, and if we meet again, polite strangers? Elin stood, then paused. Felix, I'm sorry. I was scared and selfish. I hurt you. That's the first honest thing you've said since the night you told me to give you space. She left without looking back. A text from Maya buzzed in. New client in an hour. Big contract. Ready? I replied, ready. Walking back to my office, I thought about endings, consequences, and the strange symmetry of survival. Elin got her space. Sebastian got what he earned. Kira got a clean start. And I discovered something I hadn't expected. I was stronger and more capable than I ever believed.